Welcome back, dudes and lady dudes, as always, to Just Nuts. Today, guys, we're taking a look at an old favorite of a lot of people's, including my own, archetypes. We're looking at Fire Fist today. So, if you don't know, Fire Fist just got a very recently announced / released Link monster in the OCGs, coming out in Link Vrains Pack 2, which comes out in 2 days, so on Friday. And this is a new monster they got. It's a very powerful Link 2, and I'll be honest, when I first saw this card, I did not give this card nearly enough credit as it deserves. It's actually a pretty powerful card in terms of how much it helps the archetype with its resource game. And yeah, so today we're doing like just kind of our run through of like, as we do most archetypes, where we just kind of go through all the cards in the archetype and some cards outside of it too that are very relevant to the deck, and just kind of go over like what the deck can do. So if you don't know, the Fire Fist is kind of like a control-ish style deck that can play a very strong resource game, especially now with this new Link monster. That's like one of the best things it does, is it has a very strong resource game now. And it's a very consistent deck. It has very good like search cards. It has an in-archetype searchable card that gives an extra normal summon. Like, so it has some very nice pieces. One of the biggest problems for the deck, however, is that it doesn't really have built-in disruption in any real sense. They can break boards. They have some cards that can break boards. They can spam the board a decent amount. They just don't have anything really built into the archetype that's like interrupts your opponent like at all. So you do need to play a decent amount of hand traps in the deck, so keep that in mind. And before we go in, usually I go from the main deck to the extra deck first, but because people may be used to old style Fire Fist, I want to go over the Link monster real quick before we jump into that, just so you have that in your mind as I'm going through all the cards, so you're keeping that in your mind as why certain cards may be more, like certain Fire Fist cards may be more relevant now than they used to be because of this Link monster. So keep that in mind. So let's hop into it. So Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Eagle is the new monster. He takes any 2 Beast Warrior monsters, which is kind of nice because there are some okay Beast Warrior monsters that are not Fire Fist that can be used in the deck. He says you do not need to send Fire Fist or Fire Formation cards from your hand or field to the graveyard to activate Fire Fist monsters' effects. That's one of the best parts about this card right here, because some of the Fire Fist problems was playing the resource game. You had ways to kind of like continue extending and stuff, but it was at the cost of your Fire Formation cards or Fire Fist monsters. But now you don't even have to pay that as cost, which is really, really nice. And it's why you end up with like an immense surplus of cards in a lot of situations. Then his second effect says you can target 1 Fire Formation spell or trap card on your field or graveyard, return it to the hand, then send a Fire Fist monster from your deck straight to graveyard. So you can Foolish something. Most of the time that's going to be Buffalo. You will see when we get there. He's the best probably target for that. That's a hard one to return, and you can only special summon Eagle once per turn. So very powerful card. On first reading, you may be like, I don't really see it, but they already have some decent extenders in the archetype, so where they didn't need a Link monster that specials from deck or specials from grave or specials just whatever, you know what I mean? They didn't need a really great extending card. So, but keep in mind what this card does as we go through the rest of the archetype here. So the first monster in the main deck is Leopard. This is pretty much your Rhoda, or not your Rhoda. This is like your Stratos, I guess, on normal or special summon. Tribute itself pretty much to set a Fire Formation spell trap straight from the deck. So it's not the best Rhoda / whatever or / Stratos, because you do have to tribute itself, so you have to use a normal summon, then tribute itself, but still you do get a Tenki, or you do get the one that gives you the additional normal, and that's kind of what you're going for there. So no, it's a pretty solid card in the deck, just because you can search decent things with it. You don't need that first normal summon as much as other decks. Second monster here is Spirit. This is kind of like a really good extending piece. When it's normal summoned, you can target a level 3 fire monster with 2,000 or less defense of your grave, special summon it in defense position, and it cannot attack. Only Beast Warriors can attack for the rest of the turn. So you usually do that, and then you use this to make. You can use this to make the Link, or if you already have the Link, you can make your level 6 Synchro underneath it, or the level 3 Xyz, either of those, or you can link up to you. So just a really good like spam card getting you monsters back from grave. Then we have Rooster, another very good card. This is a very good card with the addition of the new Link Monster, because on summon he adds a Fire Fist monster from deck to hand, and he says once per turn you can send a Fire Formation spell or trap to grave to set another one straight from deck, but you don't have to send, so you just pretty much once per turn can set a Fire Formation straight from deck as long as you have the Link Monster on the field. So if you get him while you already have the Link Monster, he's going to be a +2. So he's one of the reasons why the resource game is so strong in this deck with the new Link Monster. So very good there. And this is like your level 3. This is like your level 3 engine here. So in old times when people would talk about Fire Fist, you would either be playing like a 3-axis type deck, a 3.5 axis type deck, or a 4 axis, and that refers to their level. You're either playing like a level 3 base deck, a level 3 and 4 base deck, which a lot of people said was less consistent, or you played like a 4 base deck, which didn't have as strong an engine, but they did have better like removal generally. So this is kind of going to be most decks, I think nowadays, with the consistency buff that the deck kind of has, is like I think you could play a 3.5 and be fine. I think that's probably the best way to do it. And these 3 cards are just like the core of your third axis, if you will. The last card here of note is Raven. When he's sent from field to graveyard, you can set a Fire Formation spell directly from deck, and your Fire Formation spells spell traps cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, which can be nice as it adds. They just keep, you just keep getting them, and they're just unremovable for your opponent. So he's an okay card. You'd maybe play him at a 1-of, but I wouldn't blame me if you didn't. He's just the only other one that's of note. That's level 3. There are other level 3s, but they're just not very good at all. All right, then we move to level 4. So these are pretty good. Buffalo is like one of your best extenders because he says if he's in your graveyard, you can send a total of 2 Fire Fist or Fire Formation cards from hand and or face up on your side of the field to the graveyard to special summon him from the grave. That's a hard once per turn, but if you have your Link Monster, you don't have to pay that cost. Like if you have the Link Monster, his effect pretty much just says special summon this card from the grave once per turn, like hard once per turn. So he's really, really good, especially since the Link Monster has that Foolish Burial effect to just send him and then you get him immediately. Not to mention they're both 17. All of the Fire Formation cards give small buffs, and when they add up, he gets up to 2,300, 2,400, 2,500. You know what I mean? So they all turn into like decent beat sticks. Another card that gets a huge buff with the new Link Monster is Dragon, because Dragon is another kind of recursion card from Grave. He says once per turn you could send 2 face-up Fire Formation spell or trap cards you control the grave to target a Fire Fist in grave and special summon it. So no cost, pretty much just says special summon a Fire Fist from grave once per turn. Pretty strong, and he's 1,800, so he can get very beefy as well. All right. Then we have the removal cards. So Bear and Gorilla are kind of the same exact thing except opposite. So they both can set cards. So Bear needs to inflict battle damage to your opponent to set a Fire Formation spell, and Gorilla needs to destroy an opponent's monster to set a Fire Formation spell. Otherwise, they both need to send a Fire Formation spell trap you control to the grave to target. Gorilla can target and destroy a spell or trap, and Bear can target and destroy a monster. So they're both sides of the same coin. They do very, very similar things. You might play one of each just to have both the versatility in terms of removal, but they can be very nice searchable removal for the deck. So that's pretty much it. There's 2 level 5 monsters. They're not very good at all. And there's other level 4s. They're not very good at all either. So I just didn't even want to bring them up. So let's move into other monsters that can be relevant for the main deck that are not part of the Fire Fist archetype. One of them is Red Resonator. This card's very good just because it's kind of like Goblinberg, but fire. So it does help. And it's also a tuner. So he says just on normal summon, special summon a level 4 lore monster from hand. And that's pretty much it. You get something out, you can link, it can be link fodder, it can be synchro fodder, whatever you want. Whatever you want it to be. Then another very popular card in this kind of deck is Coach Soldier Wolfbark. This is a Beast Warrior Fire monster. He says you can target a level 4 exactly, Fire Beast Warrior type monster in your grave and special summon in defense mode. And its effects are negated. It's a hard once per turn, obviously. It'd be too broken if it wasn't. But this card's really important. I don't know about really important, but it's really nice, I would say, support, because it can just be used pretty much generically. It's a pretty nice follow-up play card where once, if you've gone through your play, you still have it in hand for next turn, or if you get additional normal summon with this card can extend you a good amount. there. Then we have Kaiser Vorse Raider. This card, if your opponent controls if you control no monster, sorry. If you control no monster, you can special summon this card from hand. It's just a free Beast Warrior. It can be link material for the link, the new link too. So that's mostly what he's here for. He can be a big beat stick as well. Then Danger Dogman. I threw this in here just because it was the only it was like the best Beast Warrior I saw in there that can spam itself to the board. This deck does not really meld with Dangers that well. I just want to throw it on there because it's a Beast Warrior. Then Reborn Tengu is like the last one, just because the extra normal summon card in the archetype says you just get an extra normal summon for Beast Warriors generically. So that can be Reborn Tengu, and once you get the first Reborn Tengu on board, you're going to be rolling. This card's like Malicious, but not as good, but similar to Malicious, almost as good. Just because you have to have it on the field instead of engraved. It loses a little bit of value, but it's still very, very good once you get it in that situation. So I would not blame you if you played this card in your deck. And then the last things I want to throw a note is Zodiacs. Zodiacs are very playable in this deck, even if Rapier is only in one, and even if Dryad and Brabble are not there. That's not really what you care about. These cards can just be like your one card normal summon into the link. So like you could just normal summon Rapier, send any other zoo, then make the is it Chaka9 that specials from grave? Yeah, I think then you can make Chaka9 special, the other one from grave, then you have two Beast Warriors. You link them into your guy, and then you have your guy. So that's kind of why you do that there. There's also cards like Zodiac Barrage, which is a very good support card. It's just a free Beast Warrior on field, special summoning any zoo straight from deck. So then let's move into the spells. I'm trying to run through this fast, but there's so many cards here. Tenki, this is literally your Rhoda. Add a level 4 lower Beast Warrior monster from deck to hand. I love that it's generic, and you have other Beast Warriors in the deck that aren't just Fire Fist, so you can search those too. Also keep in mind, all the Fire Formation cards are continuous. When you activate them, they stay on the field, and they all get tiny buffs. All of the spells give 100 attack points to all Beast Warriors on the field, or all Beast Warriors you control, and all the traps, I believe, give 300 to all Beast Warriors you control. I don't remember, it might be 200, but so Tenki is your Rhoda. Tensu gives you an extra normal summon for a Beast Warrior type monster. Then Gyoku says you can target a set spell or trap card your opponent controls, and it cannot be activated. They can't activate that card in response, and while this card is face up on the field, that set card cannot be activated. So it just shuts down a back row. It's a very specific card. I would maybe think about side decking this instead of putting it in the main deck, just because the way the game works now is we have combo decks and we have back row decks. So if you're not playing the back row deck, this card has literally no value, so drawing it can be pretty rough. So maybe this is a side deck card. Not entirely sure, though. And Yugioh kind of goes the same. When you activate this card, target one face-up card your opponent controls, discard a Beast Warrior type monster, and if you do, destroy that card. So it is a quick removal, but you got to discard, and it's targeting destruction. It's a pretty weak removal card, but it is searchable, which is nice, so maybe you could play it at one. If you don't play it at all, or you want to side it in, that would be a good option, too. Zodiac Barrage for the Zodiacs, Monster Reborn, because the recursion cards are very helpful for this deck, being very powerful extenders. You could play Monster Reborn, you could play Soul Charge, you could play World Legacy Succession, whichever revival one tickles your fancy the most. This is a relatively combo deck, so I would say Call by the Grave works decently well here. Resonator Call just searches Red Resonator for a boost in consistency. Then we have Fire Formation Tenken. This is an RA card. I don't like that this card is a trap. I mean, but it wouldn't be good if it was a spell unless it was a quick play spell, so that's like the problem. So you can only activate this during main phase 1, and when this card is activated, you can target a Beast Warrior monster you control. During this phase only, its effects are negated. Also, it is unaffected by the effects of cards other than this card. If it was for the rest of the turn, this card would be much better, just making a Beast Warrior completely untouchable, so you could just make your Link untouchable, and as long as it had enough boosts from the continuous cards, then it would be unkillable. So that's kind of tough. I probably wouldn't play this card. I thought maybe as a one-of, but reading it again, I definitely don't think you'd play this card. And all the traps do give 300, like I said before. So Nice little buff there. Then we have Tensin. This one's probably the best trap card. This card says, on activation, target a Beast Warrior monster you control. It gains 700 until the end of this turn. You can only really play one of this, but on flip, it's going to be a 1,000 point boost just because it's a 700 plus the 300 from its continuous effect. So the monster is going to get both. This can be activated in the damage step. So this is just kind of like your one searchable, honest type card for the battle phase, which can come in clutch, especially with giving like an extra boost. If it said give all Beast Warriors you control 700 point boost, then we're looking at really something spicy, because then it has extra value on your turn, helping you do like immensely powerful OTKs. But it doesn't. It's still an okay card. You may play it as a one of and search it if you need it. There's the Link monster. We already went over him, and so we're in the extra deck now. Horse Prince is a very good card. On Synchro Summon, special summon a level 5 or level 3 fire monster from the deck, straight from the deck. Really, really nice. You can search Leopard, which then Leopard can get you a search, and so you have ways to plus. You can special Rooster. Rooster's a very good extender. So this card's very, very good. But keep in mind, for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon level 5 or higher monsters. So no synchros over level 5 after him. But he is a really good extender, and he's 2,200 with all the buffs. Could be closer to 3,000. So keep that in mind as well. Fire Formation Kieran. I should have taken him off here because you're not really going to make him. He's not very good at all. Let's skip over him, actually. Then we have Tiger King. Tiger King's pretty good. On XZ Summon, you can set a Fire Formation spell or trap straight from deck. And then once per turn, you can attach one material from him and negate the effects of all monsters that are not Beast Warriors until the end of your opponent's next turn. And then when this card is sent to the graveyard, you can send 3 Fire Formation spell or trap cards you control to special summon 2 level 4 lower Beast Warrior monsters with same attack straight from the deck in defense mode. That's really nice. So even if you want to link him away, or he just leaves the field regardless, or it goes to the graveyard regardless, you don't have to pay that cost if you have the link monster. So if your opponent is forced to out him or whatever before outing the link, you're going to get those 2 free monsters 100% free, no cost. So that's really, really nice. Then we have Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Lion Emperor. This card's an okay card. This one's definitely super mediocre. It's 2,200, which is really nice for rank 3 plus the buffs. Again, looking at closer to 3,000. He says once per turn you can attach a material from this card, then target 1 fire monster in your grave and add it to your hand, but you cannot summon it any monsters with that card's name for the rest of the turn. So I like that it adds it back to hand. You just can't summon it, so it can give you a follow-up play. So you can't just make this just to have a big beat stick and get some value for next turn as a follow-up. So he's okay. Maybe you'd play him in 1. I'm not entirely sure. Definitely no more than 1. And then we get to some of the synchros here. We have Brionic. This is just a great generic level 6. It's iffy though, because it is fire, and sometimes you do need to do little Chimera. So that can conflict a little bit, just making him not even barely beat stick status. But he's a solid removal card. You can definitely, in the right situation, wipe an entire board, especially, like I said, this game has such a great resource game that this card can be very helpful. Vulcan the Divine, this card's really good because on Synchro Summon, you pretty much just bounce a face-up card on each player's field. So you just bounce one of your continuous and you bounce something from your opponent. So it's a really nice card because you can just add a Tenki back to hand, add a Tensu back to hand, and those are just great extenders. So next turn you'll have a double summon in hand, or next turn you'll have a search, a Rhoda. So that's really, really nice value out of a removal card like him. And he's also Fire and Beast Warrior, 2,000 attack, so beat stick fits the archetype like stats. So like gets the boost from Doolittle Chimera, gets the boost from your continuouses. So he's a really nice card overall. Really like this card in the deck. And then Tornado Dragon, you can't make rank 4, and the deck does kind of struggle with back row removal sometimes, so I definitely would recommend Tornado Dragon, just a nice generic rank 4. Dueler Chimera, which I've said before. Borreload, it's Borreload, and you can make it fairly easily. It's a good out to problematic stuff. Boral Sword for OTKing, it's 2018, like you should probably be playing these cards in every single extra deck as well as some like Nightmares, but you should probably be playing Unicorn and Phoenix easy. So that's pretty much everything I want to talk about here. If there's any support the deck could really get, I think like a main deck monster that could special summon itself from hand really easily, like says, if you control a Beast Warrior, special summon this card from hand, or Fire Fist specifically, Specialist Hand from hand. That would be really, really good because sometimes you search them, but you don't have another normal summon, so it's just kind of stuck till next turn. Which isn't the worst because usually if you're doing that, your board's already solid to begin with. But sometimes that can be annoying if you need that one little extender to like fully solidify the board. As well as disruption. Like I said earlier, there's no built-in disruption to the archetype. So the one thing I would love is if they got like 2 trap cards that do 2 different things, and they were just actual solid disruption cards, because the deck can search and set stuff super easy. And if it actually had like trap cards that did a decent job disrupting, just 2 of them, 2 decent ones, then we're looking at something. Or like a floodgate, like a solid floodgate for the spells. One of those would definitely be huge buffs to the deck, and actually may make that, could, like, legitimately, when this Link monster comes out, cards like those, if I got 4 cards, right? If we got 4 cards, like the monster I said, 2 traps that are decent at disrupting, and like a weird little spell floodgate that like can hinder your opponent a little bit, and even take out the floodgate, but those 3 cards, and this deck could easily be rogue. I could easily see this deck being rogue. But let me know what you guys think. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think this deck actually is kind of solid. Like, legitimately, I could easily see this doing regional tops when the new Link monster comes out. YCS is a big stretch without any more support after the Link, but, you know, whatever. And you guys probably know a little bit more than me, at least some of you. So let me know if I'm crazy. Let me know if you disagree, or let me know if you agree, and let me know if I missed anything here. I think I covered most of the stuff that I should be worried about. And I'm going to let you go before this video gets any longer. It's already pretty long, because this is a pretty in-depth, you know, run through, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe for more, you know, let's talk about videos in the future. And have a great Thanksgiving. If you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, then just have a phenomenal Thursday. All right, how about that? So I'm gonna get out of here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.